everyone. Brian from Sui Generis Brewing here, and welcome to what will be a short series sort of inside of my Beer on the Brain series. This series is sort of a series of opportunity. If people follow me on Instagram, you probably know that I am actually a microbiologist in the real world, and I teach a couple of lectures on brewing and fungal biology. And if we're being honest, I actually teach a couple lectures on fungal biochemistry that we just sort of trick the students into thinking are about brewing. But one of the things I prepare for these are aroma samples, where I take the same wort of beer and ferment it with different yeast, really trying to have the students sort of see what the different major sort of characteristics of different yeast types are. And I always get comments when I post the pictures of this to Instagram that, well, you should do some videos on this, so here we are. So this is sort of this year's iteration of this. Now this video I'm going to sort of explain how the process works and do the first comparison here for you. The subsequent videos, we'll just jump straight into the comparison. So the way this all starts, as I said before, was I brew sort of an extra large batch of beer, usually something fairly simple. So this year I did a Czech style Pilsner, basically straight Pilsner malt, straight Saaz hops. So very simple, not a lot of malt or complex hop aromas to distract from what the yeast are doing. Most of that goes into a fermenter. I ferment it with W347 lager yeast to make myself a nice batch of lager. But I do pull off 5 wine bottles worth of wort that then gets treated with different yeast or is then fermented with different yeast. Now, if this is something you might want to try on your own, it's actually pretty easy to do, especially if you brew with dry yeast. The reason for that is that one of those wine bottles can easily be fermented with about a 1/4 gram of yeast from a pack of dry yeast. That means that the rest of that pack, the other 10.75 grams, is still available for you to brew with. And so as long as you're careful to open it cleanly, you should be able to use that yeast on a future batch of beer. And the amount of yeast you've removed is so small that it should work with, any reasonable gravity beer that you might want to make. Now, when it comes to this particular comparison here, what we're looking at is that lager. This is a little bit cloudy, not because the beer didn't clear, but because I was moving kegs around yesterday and so it has to resettle. And this is the same wort fermented with Yeast 1056. This is the same as WLP 001 or US05. So it's the classical Chico strain or American ale strain. And in the course, these are done as a comparison of lager yeast versus an ale yeast. Now, for those of you who don't know, these are sort of different species of yeast, but not in the strictest sense. And what I mean by that is ale yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. This is your sort of standard species of brewing yeast. Lager yeast is actually kind of unique in that it is a hybrid between 2 different species. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, so the yeast here, Saccharomyces eubianus, which is a cold-loving yeast. You find it kind of in the circumarctic region, but it also tends to be found in mountain ranges. And in the early 1600s in Munich, in a brewery in Munich, these 2 yeasts got mixed together in a tank, and even though they're different species, they did somehow manage to cross, giving us the lager yeast, which is sometimes called Saccharomyces pastorianus, but it's not a real species, it's a hybrid between 2. That hybridization event created a couple of unique characters in the lager yeast that you don't find in ale yeast. One is cold tolerance. Again, the lager yeast's ancestor comes from sort of Arctic and mountain areas. It's really optimized to survive in colder conditions, and so that allows lager yeast to ferment at cooler temperatures. The advantage there is you get fewer esters and other sort of yeast-derived flavors being produced, giving you a cleaner, more malt-forward beverage. But the other thing that's kind of unique from this hybrid, from this cross, is the lager yeast has the ability to ferment a sugar called maltotriose. Now, when we mash barley, what we're doing is we're taking the starches, which are long chains of glucose, and we're chopping them up into smaller pieces. And so the smallest piece you can have is a molecule of glucose, which yeast can ferment just fine. If you have two glucoses together, that's called maltose, and yeast can still ferment that fine. Saccharomyces cerevisiae can ferment that fine. But anything larger than that, Saccharomyces cerevisiae can't ferment. Ale yeast can't ferment. But lager yeast can ferment 3 glucoses in a row, which we call maltotriose. And so that again allows these to sort of ferment a little bit more of the wort than you can with ale yeast, again giving you a little bit crisper and drier of a product than an equivalent ale yeast would give you. So that's the big differences that took place when the Saccharomyces cerevisiae hybridized to form lager yeast. But there are some extra consequences to that in the brewery, at least on the side of when you ferment with ale yeast. Now, because we have to ferment the ale yeast warmer, because they will not ferment at the temperatures that lager yeast ferment at, you do get more esters produced, which means that that beer is going to be a little bit fruitier in comparison, or a little fruitier smelling in comparison. And there's also a tendency towards some other fermentation flavors that are a product of that higher level of yeast activity. But conversely, because lager yeast ferment cool and very slowly, if you don't manage those ferments correctly, you can get diacetyl, which is sort of an unwanted buttery flavor left behind in the beer. And that occurs because the yeast will ferment the sugars. Diacetyl is sort of an intermediary in that fermentation pathway that the yeast will release, but if they have the time, they can take it back up and break it down into something that doesn't have a flavor compound, something called acetonin. Problem with lager yeast fermentations is if you just kind of let them chug along at a cool temperature, they will ferment the sugars, release the diacetyl, but then they'll go dormant before they remove the diacetyl. So when we ferment lagers, there's typically what's called a diacetyl rest, where you warm up the brew to roughly 15 Celsius, 16 Celsius for a week or so, usually during the last, say, 15% of fermentation. And that gives the lager yeast a chance to clean up the diacetyl before they go dormant. But you're doing it late enough in fermentation that you don't have much of a risk of esters or other fermentation flavors being produced. So I'll do a quick comparison here, but I just want to point out I have talked about esters and a few other fermentation characters, and some of the future comparisons, some of the future yeast comparisons will delve more into what are esters and these other flavor compounds and how are they formed. But just to finish up this little video, let's compare our ale yeast to the lager yeast. So the ale yeast looks like it carbonated quite nicely. It's very clear. To carbonate this, I just added a couple grams of sugar to the bottle and then siphoned in my beer. So there we go. Look at how nice and clear this is. And this is what the lager yeast looked like until I moved those kegs around. So hopefully that'll come back by the time we do the next video. But right off the top, you can smell in this beer some nice esters. 1056, it's not a very ester forward yellow yeast, but it does produce some sort of apple and pear-like aromas, and especially poured right from the bottle, those are really obvious. Here, of course, is the lager yeast, and there is none of that ester character. It's straight malt and hops. The other thing you get from the ale is a bit of a more yeast-like aroma, and again, there's no yeast in there. It's quite a clear pour. That's just additional flavor compounds, largely aldehydes, that are being released by those ale yeasts and giving you some additional yeast character in the beer. And as you might expect, flavor kind of follows the aroma. So our lager, our lager is really damn good. I love this beer. It's bready Pilsner malt. It is that nice sort of spicy, slightly herbal Saz character. Decent but not overpowering bitterness. Just nice across the board. Next up is the ale yeast. Yeah, so that is quite different. It's actually surprising how different that is. Still has that bready Pilsner malt. The hops are a little more subtle. They've sort of been pushed back a little bit more by the yeast, and there's definitely a lot more yeast character there, especially sort of a almost sweeter note, which I think is kind of my body's interpretation of those pear and apple-like esters. It's actually really amazing how very different this relatively non-expressive ale yeast makes this beer taste compared to the much more subtle lager yeast. So anyways, there's not too much more to say about these. That's sort of the first comparison. It's probably the least interesting comparison. Some of the yeasts coming up are a lot more interesting. But that's the beginning of this little mini-series. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll hope you join me when I go move on to the next yeast.